One of the most popular natural features is the Sahara Desert, with miles and miles of arid sand. What many people may not realize is that the desert is not exactly how many authorities describe it. What is the truth about the Sahara, and what are they trying to hide? You be the judge yourself, as in this video, Graham Hancock reveals the Sahara Desert is not what you're being told. The Sahara Desert, which covers much of the African continent's northern third, or a whopping 3.5 million square miles, extends eastward from the Atlantic Ocean some 3,000 miles to the Nile River and the Red Sea, and southward from the Atlas Mountains of Morocco and the Mediterranean shores more than 1,000 miles to the Sahel Savannah. The Sahara Desert, which is more than 16 times the size of France, covers nearly all of Mauritania, Western Sahara, Algeria, Libya, Egypt and Niger, the southern half of Tunisia, and northern parts of Mali, Chad and Sudan. The topography of the Sahara includes not only the iconic sand dune fields, but also arid mountains, plateaus, sand and gravel-covered plains, shallow basins and large oasis depressions. Its highest point is Mount Kusi in Chad, an extinct volcanic crater that rises 11,204 feet above sea level at its peak, and its lowest point is the Qatara Depression in Egypt, an oasis depression that lies 436 feet below sea level at the deepest point. The fabled dune fields of the Sahara, the most photographed parts of the desert, cover only about 15% of the desert's surface and are primarily found in the north-central region in Algeria and Libya. The majority of sand dunes, which are sand mounds and ridges sculpted by wind and gravity, have a windward or backslope surface and a leeward or slip-face surface. Winds push sand up the backslope until it reaches a crest, where it collapses under gravity and cascades down the slip face. The wind may cause striking rippled surfaces to form in its wake. The Sahara has only 2 permanent rivers and a few lakes, but it has extensive underground reservoirs known as aquifers. The Nile and the Niger are its permanent rivers. The Nile begins in Central Africa, south of the Sahara Desert, and flows north through Sudan and Egypt before emptying into the Mediterranean. The Niger River rises in Western Africa, southwest of the Sahara, and flows northeast into Mali and the desert before turning southeast and emptying into the Gulf of Guinea. The Sahara has 20 or more lakes, but only one with potable water. The vast but shallow Lake Chad, a constantly expanding and contracting body of water in Chad at the southernmost edge of the Sahara. Other lakes are a salty stew of undrinkable water. Aquifers in the Sahara frequently lie just below the surface of intermittent drainages known as wadis, which rise in mountain ranges and empty onto the desert floor. The aquifers occasionally discharge some of their water to the surface at locations known as oases, which are typically found at the bottoms of surface depressions. And if you want to experience one of the harshest climates on the planet, the Sahara has something for you. Typically, the Sahara landscape experiences very little to almost no rainfall, powerful and unpredictable winds, and wide temperature ranges. The annual average rainfall in the desert is a few inches or less, and in many places, much less. Over several years, no rain may fall in some areas. Then, in a torrential downpour, several inches may fall. Then there may be no rain for several years again. The prevailing wind, which blows from the northeast toward the equator all year, is responsible for the desert's aridity. As the wind blows southwest, the air warms, dissipating moisture that would otherwise fall as rain. Locally, hot winds frequently lift sand and dust particles from the desert floor, propelling them upward through cooler air as dust devils or southwestward as fierce and blinding dust storms. During the summer, daytime air temperatures across the Sahara frequently exceed 100 degrees Fahrenheit, with the hottest air temperature ever recorded by meteorologists, 136 degrees, occurring on September 13, 1922, at Azizia, Libya. During the evening, the temperature may drop by 40 degrees or more due to clear skies. In the winter, freezing temperatures in the northern Sahara and milder temperatures in the southern Sahara are possible. Snow may fall in some of the higher mountain ranges and, on rare occasions, on the desert floor. The Sahara, the Arabic word for desert, is one of the world's most storied and unforgiving lands, evoking a poignant sense of time and nature's power, antiquity and legend, wonder and mystery. It has played host to some of the most pivotal moments in Western history. However, how many of the stories you have heard are true, and what is left unsaid? Enter Graham Hancock, the best-selling author of major international non-fiction books such as The Sign and the Seal and Fingerprints of the Gods. His books have been translated into 30 languages and have sold millions of copies worldwide. His public lectures, radio and television appearances, including the TV series Quest for the Lost Civilization and Flooded Kingdoms of the Ice Age, as well as his strong internet presence, have exposed his ideas to tens of millions of people. Hancock considers us to be a species with amnesia. Ours is not the first advanced, globe-spanning civilization to have existed on this planet. There was another in the very distant past that has since vanished. This society, he claims, was destroyed 12,800 years ago by a natural cataclysm known as the Younger Dryas. The planet had been slowly emerging from its ice age, but global temperatures plummeted in a brief period of extreme climate change, and the survivors dispersed across the globe to pass on their secrets to our hunter-gatherer ancestors. Normally, this cooling is attributed to natural cycles, but some believe it was caused by a massive extraterrestrial collision. He's written a dozen best-selling books, appeared on Joe Rogan's podcast several times, and now has a Netflix series called Ancient Apocalypse. And yet Hancock did not enter the world talking about pyramids and apocalypses. His first book, published in 1985, was a study of the Ethiopian famine. Following that was Lords of Poverty, a scathing critique of the humanitarian aid industry, arguing that it enriched an international bureaucracy class while further impoverishing the world's poor. He was a fixture on the British left, writing for The Economist from Africa and quoting Marx in the pages of the New Internationalist. But by the early 1990s, he was instead writing about ancient artifacts. When discussing the Sahara on one of Joe Rogan's podcasts, Hancock identified one of the problems scientists have about the Sahara: lack of actual research.
Another is the Sahara Desert. The Sahara Desert, tough place to work. I can understand why there's little archaeology done there.
Then he went on to what might shock a lot of viewers. The Sahara was once green with rainforest.
But the Sahara Desert was green during the Ice Age. It had a completely different climate regime.
Shocking, but it's true. The Sahara was not always the dry, sandy landscape that it is today, according to research. Indeed, the Sahara was once as green as the Amazon, a verdant oasis teeming with thousands of different species. The Green Sahara period is well understood by archaeologists and anthropologists, with more than enough evidence to show that it was once a lush paradise. So what became of the Green Sahara? What happened to its people and animals? The Green Sahara refers to the Sahara region around 10,000 years ago, when it was a lush landscape full of green plants and a plethora of animal species. It not only had a lot more plant life, but it also had a huge mega lake that covered 42,000 square miles, or 109,000 square kilometers. This increased water quantity is thought to have contributed significantly to the region's high level of vegetation and species diversity, at a time when our first civilizations were emerging in Mesopotamia. In addition to this unnamed mega lake, Lake Chad, then known as the Mega Chad, was more than 10 times larger than it is today during the Green Sahara period. These massive lakes were fed by massive rivers such as the Nile and Niger rivers, as well as numerous streams. One massive river in the Western Sahara that since dried up has no name. Humans were able to thrive there for thousands of years due to the abundance of water, plants, and animals, including elephants, rhinos, warthogs, crocodiles, buffalo, antelopes, and giraffes. Civilizations flourished because the Green Sahara provided all of the resources they required, including food, water, and shelter. There was never a scarcity of game animals for meat or vegetation for plant-based meals or game animal feed. Because there were more resources for civilization 10,000 years ago, the population of the Green Sahara was significantly higher than it is today. According to experts, the Green Sahara once housed several million more people than the 2.5 million who live there now. As a result of the increased population, relationships between communities began to develop, and trade between communities became a part of daily life. With an abundance of goods and resources at their disposal, such as pottery, tools, weapons, plants, and animals, communities across the Green Sahara evolved into a highly advanced, interconnected civilization. For several years, experts have been discovering evidence revealing pieces of the Green Sahara's fascinating existence. Aside from discovering artifacts, experts have also studied seasonal shifts across the globe over the last several thousand years to see how the landscape and climate of various countries has changed over time. The Earth's axis would have been tilted differently during the Green Sahara. When the Earth tilts at different angles, the amount of solar radiation that can penetrate the Earth's atmosphere changes. This would have resulted in changes in atmospheric weather patterns, including monsoons, contributing to the high humidity in the Green Sahara at the time. This change in humidity was so significant in history that it was dubbed the African Humid Period. During the African Humid Period, more solar energy was able to permeate the atmosphere, resulting in an increase in rainfall. This increase in rainfall led to an increase in lakes, rivers, thriving green plants, and a plethora of animal species. Researchers have studied artifacts associated with the Green Sahara period. In addition to studying climate shifts over time, there are rock paintings, pottery, and even a boat among these artifacts. The Dufana canoe, one of the oldest recovered boats, was discovered in the middle of the Sahara Desert in 1987. This discovery demonstrates that the now dry Sahara Desert once held a significant amount of water. Modern animal species also suggest that the Saharan landscape was not always as it is today. Elephants, lions, and antelopes, for example, have different subspecies in the northern and southern Saharas. This makes sense when you consider the Green Sahara's landscape. Because there are so many large bodies of water, it is likely that animals to the north were unable to meet animals to the south. This geographic barrier would have resulted in reproductive isolation between these groups, eventually resulting in allopatric speciation. These findings are being observed today in various subspecies across the Sahara. In addition, experts discovered rock art that shows evidence of animal rearing, such as cattle, sheep, and goats. And the theme of dairy farming is prominent in these works of art. In addition to animal and farming paintings, some paintings depict people diving, fishing, and swimming in the water. All of these historical discoveries confirm that the Sahara was not always the dry, sandy, desolate landscape that it is today. Instead, it was once green, a lush paradise teeming with interconnected peoples and abundant wildlife. Though information about the people who lived in the Green Sahara is limited, we do have some understanding of their lives based on what we know about the Green Sahara. Those who lived in the Green Sahara would have lived near the shores of large lakes or the banks of raging rivers, close enough to fresh water and the abundant plants that grew from it. They would have also learned to live off the land, most likely by fishing and diving for plants and other underwater resources. We know from the rock paintings that these people were also very interested in animal husbandry. As previously stated, the paintings share a common theme of dairy farming, and there is even evidence of pottery being used to cure milk into cream and yogurt. This dairy curing would have provided additional foods for Green Sahara inhabitants, as well as more easily digestible foods for lactose-intolerant individuals. The fact that they were able to recognize that dairy could cause unwanted symptoms in some people demonstrates that they had some level of understanding about various medical conditions. As the Green Sahara began to dry out, the people who found themselves living in an increasingly arid world would have stayed close to whatever water remained. They would have had to continue moving from less water to more water as the landscape changed over time. And as the Sahara dried up, the highly advanced civilization of ancient Egypt rose, taking advantage of the changing landscape. The people of the Green Sahara are likely to have interacted with the ancient Egyptians, and they may have even collaborated to share resources and develop new technologies at the time. Several factors, according to experts, contributed to the drying up of this once thriving landscape. The shifting of the Earth's axis is the first factor. Over the course of 20,000 years or so, the Earth's axis shifts enough to change the overall climate in most parts of the Earth. A full cycle of this axis shifting thus takes about 40,000 years. Experts believe that when the Earth's axis shifted several thousand years ago, it caused a large enough climate change to cause the Green Sahara to dry up. Hotter temperatures and lower humidity would have contributed significantly to the steady decline of the plant and animal species in the region over that time period. The second factor is how human impact has altered this landscape's natural ability to evolve over time. Evidence from human migration across the Sahara shows a link between community movement and a decrease in plant life over time. However, it's unclear which caused which. Did plants die because humans used them while migrating, or did humans migrate because the plants died? One theory supporting the former is that the people of the Green Sahara allowed their goats to overgraze the region, causing the plants to die. This would have also resulted in topsoil erosion in the Sahara, preventing future plant growth. In addition to the already changing climate caused by the Earth's axis, they could have begun to deplete the Green Sahara's resources faster than it could replenish them. This would explain why the Sahara dried up even faster after the most recent African humid period compared to any previous climate shifts before humans. Climatologists believe that without human intervention, the transition from the Green Sahara to the now dry Sahara would have been much slower. Hancock then said something that reveals the importance of the Sahara in understanding how humans got here.
We should consider the possibility that missing parts of the human story are there. And then under the continental shelves, because sea level rose 400 feet. These are three domains that archaeology has largely not investigated.
There have been many discoveries from the Sahara that have made scientists take another look at what we always believed about the ancestral line of humans. One of them is a 7-million-year-old fossilized skull discovered in the southern Sahara, which experts agree could challenge the conventional view of human evolution. It pushes back unmistakable evidence of hominids, the line of ape men that ended with only one species, Homo sapiens, by 1 million years. It's the oldest member of the human family discovered thus far, and it is 3 million years older than any previous skull. It also implies that the story of human origins in Africa is far more complicated than anyone imagined. According to Daniel Lieberman of Harvard University, this will have the impact of a small nuclear bomb because it fills a gap of 5 million years in terms of the skulls of fossil creatures related to us. Sahelanthropus chadensis, dubbed Tuma by its French, American, and Chadian discoverers and published today in the journal Nature, is so far only a cranium and lower jaw, discovered in the wind-scoured sandstone of northern Chad. Tuma resembles a chimp from behind and its brain capacity is comparable. However, from the front, it has a massive brow ridge, which is associated with much later human ancestors. Its face and teeth are also more human than ape-like. Tuma is arguably the most significant fossil discovery in living memory, rivaling the discovery of the first ape man, Australopithecus africanus, 77 years ago. Much of the search for human ancestors is focused on East African or Ethiopian fossil beds. Many discoveries have been made using tantalizing jaw or limb fragments and, in one case, footprints. However, Tuma's skull was discovered more than 1,500 miles to the west in the Jurab Desert's Tauros-Menala region. Michael Brunet of the University of Poitiers made the discovery more than 20 years ago. Tuma was most likely a male about the size of a modern chimp and lived 6 to 7 million years ago in a mixed habitat of forested lake, wooded savanna, and desert. A close examination of the creature's teeth could reveal information about what it ate and how it lived. The new hominid exhibits a unique combination of primitive and derived characters, implying a close relationship to the last common ancestor of humans and chimps, implying him as a likely ancestor of all later hominids. These findings fundamentally alter our understanding of the earliest stages of hominid evolution. The discovery was dated indirectly by the presence of other creatures known to have roamed Africa more than 6 million years ago. They discovered the fossilized bones of more than 42 different fish, reptile, and primitive mammal species in the same rocks, including carnivores, elephants, three-toed horses, giraffes, antelopes, hippopotamuses, wild boar, rodents, and monkeys. They named their find Tuma, which means hope of life, because it's the name given to babies born just before the dry season in the region. However, to know more, we require bones from the rest of the animal's skeleton. Was it walking straight? That is a critical question that we have yet to answer. It is unknown if it was meat-eating. It was most likely vegetarian according to the assumption. At the time, the majority of apes were. Now, there were apes in Africa 9 million years ago, and an Australopithecine or southern ape left behind a skull about 4 million years ago as evidence of the arrival of a possible human ancestor. Until Tuma, the fossil evidence from the 5 million year gap would have been enough to fill a shoebox. The Tuma discovery confirms that the ancestors of modern humans diverged from those of great apes like chimps more than 7 million years ago. However, researchers warn that the true message of Tuma is that there may have been many unknown actors in the drama of human evolution. There have been several extinct lineages identified, but there could be more. Nobody knows which species played supporting roles and which were the main characters in the story of human ancestry. It's unclear how and where Tuma fits into the story. However, the age of the discovery tempts researchers to place Tuma near the point where humans and chimps diverge. Early anthropologists viewed human evolution as a stairway with simple steps leading from ape ancestor to modern man. The image is now of a family tree with murky connections. Aurorin tuganensis, the so-called Millennium Man, was announced in 2000 as one of the enigmatic cousins. A few bones and teeth point to a walking, tree-climbing creature that lived nearly 6 million years ago in Kenya's Tugan Hills. Aurorin means original man in Tugan, but is it related to apes or men? Ardipithecus ramidus, discovered in Ethiopia in 1994 and again in 2001, lived more than 5 million years ago according to teeth, jawbone, collarbone, and a single toe bone. It walked upright as indicated by the toe bone. Ardipithecus clung to life. There was a descendant species there until 2.5 million years ago. There is also the Australopithecus afarensis. Raymond Dart made a spectacular discovery in South Africa in 1925. It lived over 3.3 million years ago. The most famous skeleton, however, is Lucy, which was discovered in 1974 in Ethiopia. At the time, the researchers were listening to the Beatles' Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. However, researchers are still unsure of Lucy's place in the story of human ancestry. And there is Homo ergaster, which had a large brain, upright stance, used stone tools, and lived between 2 million and 400,000 years ago. Best known for Turkana Boy, a nearly complete skeleton from 1.65 million years ago, discovered in Lake Turkana in East Africa. Until last week, it was thought to be the first human migration. However, new fossils discovered in Georgia suggest that some other small-brained humans escaped first. What do you find most fascinating about the Sahara Desert? Let us know in the comments section below.